This kind of skill that we call it tone is one of the boring skill. Why? The way of answering that kind of skill, it will take time. It not waste your time, but you need to manage your time. As we said, that each question from the reading, it has to take 1 minute and 30 seconds. This kind of question is going to take more. So because of that, I do recommend to keep it till the end. This kind of question come in two shapes. The tone question come in two shapes. One of them that we are going to start with is focus shift. And the other one is going to talk about the tone itself. Both of them, take care, both of those questions, you have to read the whole passage. You have to read the whole passage. The problem in tone, that is not now, we're going to start with the focus shift. The problem with tone that is gonna be with the paired passage, mostly with the paired passages. So because of that, it's harder. It's not harder. You can get the answer easily. But in that one, you have to compare between the two passages, or contrast between the two passages, or to show one of the author opinion regarding the other one. So you have to read both passages. Okay, let's start with the first one, is the focus shift. It has a keyword that is called shift, or focus shift together. Whenever you find them, whenever you find focus or shift or focus shift, you know that it's a tone question. Okay, mister, how can I answer that kind of question? Let's have a look at the question itself, and you're going to tell me now, what is the share between A, B, C, and D in the answers? Look at the answer and tell me what is shared between them. There is something similar in A, B, C, and D. What is it? Anybody finds that? Okay, it's a preposition. What's Yara? Again, Yara, raise your voice.
I was about to say either descriptions or like personalities.
No, it's a preposition. Preposition that shared between the four choices. It's easy. In the four choices, you have two. As you can see, there is part before two and there is part after two in the four choices. The first part is for the first part of the passage, and the second part of the answer for the second part of the passage. Okay, mister? Now we know this. We know that we're going to have to take care. The question is here. Focus shift. So how we're going to answer that kind of question? You have to divide the passage in two parts. You have to divide the passage in two parts. Whether, how we're going to divide it? According to the number of paragraphs. Like, let's have a look at the passage for this question. Look how many paragraphs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 paragraphs. So you're going to divide them. Take care. Like if we have 4 paragraphs, we're going to divide them in 2 and 2. If we have 5 paragraphs, you're going to divide them in 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. But take care. They must be equal in number of the lines. Like if I'm going to say that I'm going to take 3 paragraphs and 2. So 1, 2, 3. No, it's so long. It's take a column and a half. Okay, let's say that I'm gonna take 1, 2 till here. Then yes, this is okay because it's one column and a part, a little part. So now I'm gonna divide the passage into 2 paragraphs and 3 paragraphs. What is gonna happen later? Now you're gonna read the first part only, the first part that you divided by yourself, and go to the first part before 2 and find which one match with whatever you read. Let's try. Here he said the Al Gather restaurant was on Sheridan Road near Devon Avenue. It was long and narrow, with tables for 2 along the walls and tables for 4 down the middle. The decoration was art modern, except for the series of murals depicting the 4 seasons and the 6 ferns in the front window. Lemmy sat down at the second table from the cash register and ordered his dinner. The history book which he propped against the cat's up and the glass sugar bowl had been used by others before him. Blank pages front and back were filled in with maps, drawings, dates, comic cartoons, and organs of the body. Also with names and messages no longer clear and never absolutely legible. On nearly every other page, there was submersion notation, either in ink or in very hard pencil. And unless someone had upset a glass of water, the marks on page 177 were from tears. While Lemmy read about the Peace of Paris, signed on the 13th of May, 1814, between France and the Allied powers, his right hand managed again and again to bring food up to his mouth. Sometimes he chewed, sometimes he swallowed the whole food, that he had no idea he was eating. The Congress of Vienna met, with some allowance for delays, early in November of the same year, and all the powers engaged in the war on either side sent plenipotentiaries. It was by far the most splendid and important assembly ever convoked to discuss and determine the affairs of Europe. The Emperor of Russia, the King of Prussia, the King of Bavaria, Denmark, and Wittenberg, all were present in person at the court of the Emperor Francis I in the Styrian capital. Well, Lemmy put down his fork and began to count them off one by one. On the fingers of his left hand, the waitress, whose name was Irma, thought he was through eating and tried to take his plate away. Stopped there. Prince Metternich, his right thumb, presided over the Congress, and Prince Terland, the index finger, represented France. Okay, let's go now to the first part. Is it Lemmy's inner thoughts? No, he was reading a book. So now I'm going to cancel A at all. Done. I'm not going to return back to it. Even if part 2 is right, I'm done with part 1. So I'm going to eliminate the whole answer. B. Yes.
So we take the first paragraph.
No, the first paragraph. You're going to divide. You're going to divide the passage in 2 parts according to the number of paragraphs. Okay, Wissam?
Okay.
So here I divide it into 2 and 3. I read the first 2, then I go to the first part. I found now that the first part doesn't match what I read. An exchange between strangers, nothing happened here. Thank you. The physical setting of the scene, yes, he talked about the restaurant, the place. So maybe this is right. Lemmy's experience reading a book, yes, he talked about that. So maybe right. So now I'm between C and D. Clear, Wissam?
Yes.
You're under 1, clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now what will happen? Again, yes, go on.
I didn't get the method.
You didn't get what?
The method. The reading method.
Again. If you look here at the choices, you're going to find 2, a preposition. Just circle 2. You have a part before 2 and part after 2. Now let's go to the passage. You have to divide the passage into 2 halves according to the number of the paragraph. Like if we have 4 paragraphs, divide them into 2 and 2. 5 paragraphs, 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. This is according to the length of the paragraph themselves. Okay, Rawan, till now?
Okay.
Then you're going to read the first part according to your division. After you finish the first part, go now to the first part of the answers. and find which one match. Like when we read up, we find that he's talking about the sitting in the restaurant and about the book. When we come here, he doesn't talk about Lem's inner thoughts. It doesn't talk about an exchange between strangers. So I cancel both of them. I'm not going to return back to them again. Now I have C and D. The physical setting of the scene, yes, he talked about the restaurant. Lem's experience reading a book, yes, he talked about that. So now I'm between C and D. Clear one?
Clear.
I didn't finish because now you have to return back to the second part to read it, to decide later which one is going to be the suitable answer, C or D. Let's go. A party of 4, 2 men and 2 women came into the restaurant, all talking at once, and took position of the center table nearest Lemmy. The women had shingled hair, he's describing them now, and short tight skirts, which exposed the underside of their knees when they sat down. One of the women had the face of a young boy, but disguised by one trick or another. Rouge, lipstick, powder, wig bank, plaster against the high forehead, and a pair of long pendant earrings to look like a woman of 35, which as a matter of fact, she was. The men were older. They laughed more than there seemed any occasion for. While they were designed between soup and shrimp cocktail, and their laughter was too loud. But it was the women's voices, the terrible, not quite sober pitch of the women's voices, which caused Lemmy to skim over 2 whole pages without knowing what was on them. Fortunately, he realized this and went back. Otherwise, he might never have known about the secret treaty concluded between England, France, and Austria, when the pretension of Prussia and Russia, acting in concert, seemed to threaten a renewal of the attack. There's also the Congress where stated clearly at the bottom of page 67 and at the top of page 68. But before Lemmy got halfway through them, a code that he recognized as his father was hung on the hook next to his chair. Lemmy closed the book and said, "I didn't think you were coming." Time is probably no more unkind to sporting character than it's to other people. But physical decay unsustained by respectability is somehow more noticeable. Mr. Peters' hair was turning gray, describing him also, and his scalp showed through on top. He had lost weight also. He no longer filled out his clothes the way he used to. His color was poor and the flower had disappeared from his buttonhole. In its place was an American Legion button. Apparently, he himself was not aware that there had been any change. He straightened his tie self-consciously, and when Irma handed him a menu, he gestured with it, so that the 2 women at the next table would notice the diamond ring on the 4th finger of his right hand. Both of these things, and also the fact that his hand showed signs of manicure, one can blame on the young man who had his picture taken with a derby hat on the back of his head, and also sitting with a girl in the curve of the moon. The young man had never for 1 second deserted Mr. Peters. He was always there, tugging at Mr. Peters' elbow, making him do things that were not becoming in a man of 45. Let's go there now to C and D. Is it different characters, personality traits, or description of people in the restaurant? What do you think?
C.
Does he talk about personality traits or description? He talk about their personality traits, they are liar, they are telling the truth, or that he described them?
Scripts.
Yeah.
Description.
Yeah, so the answer is D. Again, I'm going to repeat the way that you solve the focus shift question that relate to the tone. Number 1, you have to look at the answers and find 2. That is going to divide 2 parts. Part before 2, part after 2. The part before 2 is the first part. The part after 2 is the second part. Then you're going to go to the passage, the whole passage. Divide it in 2 parts according to the number of the paragraphs. Read the first part first and go to the first part before 2 and find which answer can be accepted according to the description of the first part. You're going to eliminate some answers. Then you're going to go to the second one. You're going to make the same for the rest. Then you're going to find your answer. Clear, guys?
So Mr. only reading passage 1 and 2?
Note passage 1 and 2, Yara, again. If we have 4 paragraphs, divide them in 2 and 2. 5
Yeah.
paragraphs, 2 and 3, or 3 and 2.
Okay.
Clear, Yara?
Yes.
Okay. Now it's your call. A whole passage, as you can see right now. I want you, take care. It consists only of 2 paragraphs. Did the first, did the second. So read the first, then go to the first part before 2, find which one can be accepted, then eliminate whatever is not gonna match, then go to the second part and find which one from the rest. Go on. If you find your answer, write it on the chat box, please. Take care. Here only we have 2 paragraphs. There's number 1, there's number 2. And here in the answers, the same characteristic that I told you about. Okay, for your answers, Rawan said C and Wissam, Yara said A. Let's find. I'm gonna read the first part and find which one will match. My emotions are complicated and not readily favorable. I feel a vast yearning that is simultaneously a pleasure and a pain. I'm certain of the consummation of this yearning, yearning, desire, but I don't know yet what form it will take. Since I don't understand quite what is it that yearning desires, for the first time, there is born in upon me the full truth of what I myself said to the doctor only an hour ago, that my motives in this undertaking are not entirely clear. For years, for lifetime, the machinery of my destiny has worked in secret to prepare for this moment. Its clockwork has moved exactly toward this time, place, and no other. Rising slowly from the earth that bore me and gave me sustenance, I'm carried helplessly toward an uninhabited and hostile, or at best indifferent part of the earth, littered with the bones of explorers and the wrecks of ships, frozen supply catches, messages scrawled with chilled fingers, and hidden in cairn that no eye will ever see. Nobody has succeeded in this thing, and many have died, yet in freely willing this enterprise, in choosing this moment, and no other when the south wind will carry me exactly northward at the velocity of 8 knots. I have converted the machinery of my fate into the servant of my will. All this I understand as I understand each detail of the technique by which this is carried out. What I don't understand is why I'm so intent on going to this particular place. Who wants the North Pole? What good is it? What good is it? Can you eat it? will it carry you from Gothenburg to Malmö like a railway? The Danish ministers have declared from their pulpit that participation in polar expedition is beneficial to the soul's eternal well-being. Or so I read in a newspaper. It's not clear how this doctrine is to be interpreted, except that the pole is something difficult or impossible to attain, which must nevertheless be sought for. Because man is condemned to seek out and know everything, whether or not the knowledge gives him pleasure. In short, it's the same unthinking lust for knowledge that drove our first parents out of the garden, Adam and Eve. Okay, so now I finished the first part. Let's go there. Fear about the expedition, I think, is a little bit scared, maybe. Doubt about his ability. He doesn't talk about his ability at all. So cancel. Uncertainty of his motives. Yes, he talked about motives and said that they are not clear. And it was mentioned, so maybe. Disdain for the North Pole means abusing the North Pole. Yes, he said here. Who won the North Pole? So now I'm between A, C, and D. Let's go to the second part to decide which one is going to be. And suppose you were to find it, in spite of all, this wonderful place that everybody is so anxious to stand on. What would you find? Exactly nothing. Take care of that. Exactly nothing. A point precisely identical to all the others in a completely featureless wasteland stretching around it for hundreds of miles. It's an abstraction, a mathematical fiction. No one but a Swedish madman, the author, could take the slightest interest in it. Here I am. The wind is still from the south, bearing us steadily northward at the speed of a trotting dog. Behind us, perhaps forever, lie the cities of men with their teacups and their brass bedsteads. I'm going forth of my own volition to join the gods of Beering and poor Franklin, of frozen DeLong and his men. What I am on the brink of knowing, I now see, is not an ephemeral mathematical spot, but myself. The doctor was right, even though I dislike him. Fundamentally, I'm a dangerous madman, and what I do, take care of that, is oppose a challenge to my egotism and surrender to it. Okay, so is it excitement about the expedition? No, he still doesn't have any kind. He said that he's gonna join the gold there. He's asking us why I'm gonna go there. So it's not A, Yara. C, recognition of his motives. Yes, he said in the last sentence, I do, what I do is both a challenge to my egotism, there's a motive, and a surrender to it. So maybe the last one, appreciation of the North Pole. No, he said it's nothing. Identical land that's completely featureless, no feature in it. So the answer is C. Clear, Yara?
Yes.
Okay. I forgot to tell you that this kind of question will come at most 3 questions in the whole test only. And take care, each question is going to be in one passage. So at most 3 questions for the focus shift, under the umbrella of tone. Okay. May you start answering this one also? But there is a little change here. Take care of that. Where is 2 that we spoke about it? Where is 2 here? There is nothing that talk about 2. 2 actually was mentioned in the heading of the question. Why? Because he gave you the first part. Did the answer of the first part. It was given to you. Now you need to find the second part. So read only the second part. So divide the passage into how many paragraphs and read only the last part to find the answer. Go on. This is an easy question now, because just make it for us simple.
Mr. What do you mean just the last part?
If you look here, we don't have in the question 2 in the answers. Can you see, Wissam?
Yes.
Why? Because he actually gave us the answer for the first part up. You got it?
So we only read the
I need only the
second
second part.
In 600 meters,
Okay.
slide left onto
Okay.
Alaruba Road.
Okay, go on, guys, please. I can't open the whole page because so big. So I wish that you open it from your laptop or mobile. Go on. As I told you that this kind of question, he give you the first part. He give you the answer for the first part. He make it for you easier. So we need to look only at the second part. And to look at the second part, I must divide. So here, the first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, fourth paragraph, fifth paragraph, and sixth paragraph. So now it's easy. It's going to be 3 and 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to start from here, from at least. Take care that the first part is talk about discussion of an experiment and its results. Let's go to the second part. Is it at
Mr.
least? Yes.
Sorry, Mr. 5 or 6 passages,
Six
paragraphs?
paragraphs. 6 paragraphs. I enumerate them. Look here. 1, 2. Yeah, there's here something missing that I didn't put the indent, but it's a fourth paragraph. Okay.
Okay.
So let's start. At least when it comes to comments on news sites, the crowd is more herd-like than wise. Comment that received fake positive votes. I think he's still talking about the results here. From the researchers were 32% more likely to receive more positive votes compared with the control. The team reports, and those comments were no more likely than the control to be downvoted by the next viewer to see them. By the end of the study, positively manipulated comments got an overall boost of about 25%. However, the same didn't hold true for negative manipulation. The rating of comments that got a fake downvote were usually negated by an upvote by the next user to see them. Our experiment, is still talking about the first part. Our experiment doesn't reveal the psychology behind people's decision. Adel says, but an initiative explanation is that people are more skeptical of negative social influence. They are more willing to go along with positive opinion from other people. Duncan Watts, a network scientist at Microsoft Research in New York City, agrees with that conclusion. But one question is whether the positive herding bias is specific to this side or true in general. Watts says, he points out that the category of the news item in the experiment had a strong effect on how much people could manipulate it. I would have thought that business is pretty similar to economics, yet they find a much stronger effect, almost 50% stronger for the former than the latter. What explains this difference? A question. If we are going to apply this finding in the real world, we will need to know the answers. Will companies be able to boost their products by manipulating online rating on a massive scale? Take care. I have now question, and question. That is easier said than done. What says? If people detect or learn that comments on a website are being manipulated, the herd may spook and leave entirely. Okay, let's find now an explanation of the practical application of the results. It doesn't mention any practical application about the result. Nothing. Nothing. He's still talking about the result itself. Considering questions 1, 2, 3, repeated in 3. We said that last time. Take care the thing that is repeated in 3. So consideration of a question prompted by the results. Yes, he still talk about the result, and there are certain questions start to be aroused from the kind of results. So it can be an analysis of the effects undermining the results. It doesn't talk about any kind of effects. You just raise kind of question that we call it rhetorical question. A conversation with a scientist. You know that there is a scientist here, Duncan Watts, who dispute the result. He doesn't dispute the result. He just asked certain question. So the answer is B. Wissam and Rawan, clear?
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Okay. As I told you, I don't have too many question regarding the kind of skill. You're gonna find that we finish actually the question, but you remember that we have the test. Let me stop the recording.